What's up, guys? Welcome to the F Words with Gordo. I'm Gordo, your host. Today we're talking about fitness, and we're talking about a race I have coming up, what I've done previously in the last few months, and what this looks like for me going forward, why this is important for me, and hopefully what I can expect from my race, and maybe just a couple tips and pieces of advice. If you guys haven't, I would love it if you could like and subscribe. It means more than you guys know. And all right, let's hit the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. This is the F Word with Gordo. I'm Gordo. This is Romy, my dog. And today I'm talking about fitness. One of my favorite topics. I love talking about fitness. And in some earlier episodes, I talked about triathlon about a year ago. Did my first triathlon. I did pre-triathlon, post-triathlon. And it's been a while since I talked about this stuff. And so what have I done since that triathlon? Well, I left the triathlon with a lot of confidence, with some pride in myself. And, basically the first thought that came to mind was, at the end of the triathlon, you run 10K. And I thought, well, I did that at the end of my triathlon. And a marathon is just doing a 10K 4 times, basically. And I was kind of equating the physical requirement for a triathlon to the physical requirement for a marathon. And I was like, at that point I had like 8 months, and I was like, I think I'm going to do a marathon. So I signed up for the BMO Vancouver Marathon, and I honestly took a couple months off. And then once the new year hit, so I had about 4 months, started training hard. And guys, it was a gauntlet. It was a jaunt. It was totally different from training for a triathlon. Training for a triathlon, you are mixing and running with biking and swimming and weights, anything else you want. And biking and swimming is low impact. And it changes like the toll on your body. It's huge. It's big difference. And I thought that the physical requirement for a marathon would be like roughly the same, but just translate differently. And it took like a couple weeks in only. And I was like, this is crazy. This is so much different. And it's different because you are pounding the pavement day after day after day. You're just getting miles in on your feet. And it sucked. Like my feet could not keep up to the requirement, what's required for training. And you like push through, but then you want to recover before hitting future long runs. And it was like just a total absolute grind. To the point where I bought a new pair of shoes a week before, because I was like, I need some advantage to get my feet through this as long as possible. And, I was doing some longer trainings, like 20, 25K runs. But they were leaving me wrecked, and this was my mindset. I was like, I ran 25K and I thought it's just 17 more K after that. And then I got to the day of, and I just like took the week off before and rested, did a lot of stretching, kind of dialed in my eating. And I was like, let's go. Like, it is what it is. There's nothing I can do now. I'm just going to go run and see what I can do. And, I started out at the back of the pack, slowest time, and just took my time, and I was there with some friends, and friends had a bit of stress. My one buddy forgot his fitness watch, and we just went for it. We had different pacers that we were aligned with. So we kind of all started at different places. And, first off, it was a beautiful day in Vancouver. And just went for it. Started a really slow pace. And I was in, was just going and got to about 12K. And my wife was there, and she was like going ahead, waving at me, cheering for me, and then going ahead again. And the first time I saw her was at the 12K mark. And she's like running, cheering. And I was like, yeah, babe, only 12 more K. Or no, sorry. I ran 12K. I was like, babe, only 30 more K. And then I kind of said to myself, she like ran off. I was like, only 30 more K. I have 30 more K. I was like, oh, this is going to be tough. And not long, I think around 14K. So like 2K after that, this person with this giant flag in a backpack ran past me, and it said event sweep. And I didn't know what that meant. And then this marshal came on her bike. Said, excuse me, person with the flag. It says like event sweep. Like, what is that? And she's like, oh, she's like the sweep at the end, like sweeping like the final people across lines and setting the like final time you have to make. And I was like, oh, do I have to beat her to like the 30K line? Because there's a cutoff. You have to do the first 30K in 4 hours. And she's like, well, you'll want to like give it like a good push. And, or she's like, oh, no, this is what she's like. Well, you have to be with her. And I was like 20 feet behind her, this event sweep. And I said, like, is this with her? And she's like, if this is how far back you are, you'll want to give it a good push. Like basically saying you got cross the line before she does. And I was like, all right, noted. And just like got another wind, picked up the pace and got ahead of her, maybe 200, 250 feet, and kept looking back. And she's like this monster always tailing me. And I was like, the monster's coming. But I just, kept going for it. And got to around 16K, and it was all downhill from the UBC campus in Vancouver. And so I just like let gravity carry me down, past a ton of people, and didn't see her again the rest of the event. So I really like that couple kilometers really like upped my average time. And got from there, got to the 21K mark, the half K mark, the half marathon mark, and started like walked a bit for the first time. And my feet and legs were so sore. I felt it when I started walking. I was like, oh man. I had like some gels, or they had whatever was at the half marathon mark. And I was like, hey, I got to keep going. We got to up this pace. And had to get to the 30K mark before that sweet person. And it was around like 25K. The pain really started setting in. I hadn't run more than 25K before, so I was feeling that. And, I was slowing down, kept looking at my watch, and my average pace and my average time was increasing. And I had to get to it by, I think my average kilometer pace had to be like 8 minutes or 9 minutes. I can't remember, but I had to like get there by with a certain average pace on my watch, man. And you're just at this bridge. They shut down half the bridge for the runners. And, you get across the 30K mark and you feel like you kind of win. Like, oh, I got here before the sweep. I can keep going. But man, that was like, I really started walking. And this was like this was how my brain was kind of functioning. It was like, okay, when I was running, my brain would be like, Gordo, you can walk. Just walk a little bit. Just walk a few steps. And nothing close about quitting or stopping or anything. So I'd slow down and start walking. Then my brain would kick and be like, Gordo, just stop. Just sit for a minute. It feels so good. I knew if I stopped, my body would just like tighten and like it would tighten and what's that word? Like seize up. My body would seize up. And so I was just kind of running a few steps, walking more, running a few steps, walking more. And then I started being like, all right, you can just run till the 33K thing, and then you can walk a bit. And then I'd get to the 33, and then I'd be like, hey, just get to the 34. Like there was kind of maybe more later, like 30, like once I hit 35, it was like 36. Yeah. And at this point, you're running along the seawall, and you're getting blasted by all this cold wind. The waves are crashing. And up until this point, there's all these cheering groups, all the activity of the city. Like you just feel all these people, and you get to the seawall, and it's just like silence. All you feel is this cold ocean air. All you hear are these waves crashing, and it's just you and your mind. And especially me, I was pretty late in the marathon, so there's not a lot of people left. And you turn this corner at like 37K, and who you see? an Elvis impersonator, just like usurping the whole path, singing "You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog," and you get up and you try to squeeze against as far over as you can, and he squeezes against you, and he gets the fist out for a fist bump, and you give him a fist bump, and you're just like, this is the last thing I need to see right now. Except I was running and I was pacing with these two people, might have been father, daughter, might have been two friends. And the girl was about my pace and the guy was quite a bit more, fit. And he was a pretty bad encourager. He'd be like, come on, we can't get cut off. We're going to get cut off. We got to get going, which is, I think is just like really poor motivating. That's like someone motivating who doesn't really know how to motivate someone. And then and this started around the 25K mark, and I'd kind of get away from them and come back, and he would run past me and run past me again, back to her, and run past me and back over and over and over and over. And I get away from them, and then I'd slow down, and they catch up and whatever. And then I passed Elvis. And then these guys I was around like 38K, 39K hit. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I can't handle what's going on here with these two. And I just kicked it up. And then I was like, boom, passing all these people, especially after the 41K mark. I'm passing people I hadn't seen all race. And I was like, whoa. And it really like motivated me. I got to kick this up to finish as fast as I can. And so I'm like blitzing. Blitzing is not going very fast. It's like a 7.5 minute pace, but it's pretty good after having run and walked 40K, 42K. Get to the line, and there's my time. 5 hours, 51 minutes. 5 hours, 51 minutes. Holy. So like over 2 hours longer than my triathlon. It took me. Crazy. Awful. My feet hurt, my leg, my calves, my knees, my thighs, my glutes, my back, everything hurt. And shout out my wife, because she saw me again around the 25K mark, I think, and then was there at the finish line. The two friends I did it with, they finished at 5 hours and 19 minutes and 5 hours, 21 minutes. And they hung around. I thought they'd be like already home, and they were still there, and them and their families like cheered me across the line. And that was so heartfelt and nice. I like really appreciated that. And really, like I said earlier, the triathlon like granted me this plethora of confidence, and the marathon just slammed it out of me. Like made me realize you don't really know what you're doing with this stuff. Holy crap. It was crazy. And then I just took off a couple months. That was May. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? What do I want to do this stuff for? The event was fun, but a full marathon was just like an absolute gauntlet. And then, my mother-in-law got me this like medal holder, and it says Gordo, and it has a silhouette of someone swimming, a silhouette of someone biking, and a silhouette of someone running. And it was so nice. And I thought, and it has like 6 hooks, and I only have 2 medals. And I thought, I need more medals, which means I got to run more races. And took a couple weeks, and then some prompting from my wife, and I signed up for another triathlon. Same one. Last year I did Cultus Lake Triathlon, standard distance. This year I'm doing Cultus Lake Triathlon, standard distance. And I'm stoked. Actually what the biggest difference is? A year ago, I was stressed that I wouldn't be able to finish. And the concept of like not finishing was really embarrassing. If I didn't finish, because I couldn't like keep up with the necessary paces. But I know now I can finish, and I likely will finish. So now I'm like, okay, will I finish with a better time? I started my training later this year for my triathlon. So will I finish earlier, or will I finish later? Like, what if I'm a little bit heavier? What if I haven't been eating as well as I was a year ago? There's things like that. And then if I don't finish faster, if I finish slower, will I be sad? Will I still be happy? I don't know. So I'm trying to prepare for that. And, but you know what? I will tell you this, training for a triathlon has been 10 times funner. Not that's about how fun training is, but it's been 10 times funner than training for the marathon. And I think what I'm realizing is that um, it's important for the day of to be really fun and exciting and fulfilling. Actually, that's what I think it's really about. Fun, maybe fulfilling. Like, I think it's important to, if I'm doing these things, for them to be fulfilling. But then if I'm training and I'm spending all this time training, I'm spending time away from my family training, then I want to enjoy training as well. So then that means I need to be doing things during my training that I get some kind of fulfillment out of. And like I said earlier, training for the marathon sucked. It was a total gauntlet. And so, but I don't mind running. And one thing I like that I got out of the marathon training is that I could, like, to go for a quick 10K was not a big thing at all. And that was kind of nice because, like, who thinks like 10 or 15K isn't a big deal to go for in a run? And I could really feel that way because I was putting all this time in training for a marathon. So even though the marathon sucked, to get this proficiency of like running, considering 10 or 15K is not like a long run, felt great. I did really like that development, that byproduct of it. Yeah. And so now for like this triathlon, our lives look a little different. We have a little boy, our baby boy with us, and we have to work around that and work around family stuff and household stuff and how stuff all looks. So yeah, it just looks different. But what I'm enjoying is I have less stress this year because I think like I know I can finish. I know I probably will finish. And so if I can and will finish, then if I can and will finish, I'm just not really as stressed. And what I do feel is like not having that stress makes me a bit less concerned if I miss a day training. I'm trying to train 6 days a week. I've had pretty good success with it. But hey, we're less than 3 weeks till the event. 3 weeks today. Sorry, 3 weeks today. And so I'm kind of set. Like I'm going to keep training and I'll get the week before and I'll tone it down and like rest and dial in my eating. But it's coming and it will be what it's going to be. But I'm looking forward to it. And I got a friend to sign up to do it. Last year, I didn't know anyone that was doing it. And this year, my buddy who ran the marathon, very proficient runner, signed up for the triathlon. And so he's getting into biking, getting into swimming. And that has me so excited because I thought last year the only thing that would make doing this triathlon better is doing it with someone I knew. And now I am. And that's super exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm also mixing in more weightlifting. I really enjoy weightlifting. I feel, if let's say doing a cardio session leaves me feeling good for the rest of the day, a weightlift session leaves me feeling good for the next 2 or 3 days. Like if I'm like, let's say compared to doing nothing, if I do nothing, I think you generally feel pretty crappy if you don't do anything, for several days in a row. If I do cardio, I feel good for that day. And the next day I'm like, oh, I need to go do something. If I lift weights, I feel good. I should say I feel better than those days where I don't do anything. For like a couple days, like a weightlift session can keep me going. And I think that's because your muscles are still repairing from the tearing session. And honestly, I think it's counterproductive how I'm weightlifting with training, but it's kind of like mental. Like I need to lift weights because I love lifting weights and I missed it when I was training for a marathon and when I was training for my triathlon. And so I thought, I'm only going to do this if I can lift weights at the same time. So that's been a nice development. I want to be more consistent with them than I have been, but it has been like it's been like a great addition to all this other stuff. And yeah, I'm just kind of going in thinking like, I'm just feeling like last year was like, can I do this? And I think this year is like, this year I'm thinking these events are really fun. So I'm just going to go do the best I can and see, like, try to beat last year's time. And I don't know, just like enjoy it. It's pretty fun to like bike around, swim around, run around, and people are cheering and shaking bells and have signs for you. It's like a very nice feeling. And so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I think like life is short. And sometimes I talk to people who hear that I do these things and say I could never do that, or like, it's so impressive you do it. And honestly, I think anyone could do these. Triathlons have a sprint distance. So the standard distance that I'm doing is a 1.5 kilometer swim, 40 kilometer bike ride, 10 kilometer run. And then they have sprint distances, which are 700. It's all in half. So 750 meter swim, 20K bike, 5K run. And they have relays. So you could split it up. One person swims 1.5K. The next person bikes 40. Next person bikes 10. And they have aqua bike. So you just do the swim and the bike. So there's like lots of ways to get into these things. And I think if you've never done them, and well, we're kind of like running late into these, like into triathlon season, but if you've never done these things, and this is part of the reason I do these things, is I generally need like something to motivate me, to help me with like focusing my physical activity and my eating. And, by deciding to do a triathlon, it just is something in the future that I'm like, I need to dial in and like go accomplish this. And so now I'm thinking like, what's after this triathlon? In Victoria. So I'm in Abbotsford, BC, just outside Vancouver. And in Victoria, they have half Ironmans, which would be 2.1 kilometer swim, 90K bike, 21.1 kilometer run. So it's like basically double all the triathlon stuff. And I'm like, is that next? In Abbotsford in March, we have the Backyard Ultra Marathon. It's a last man standing race, and it's like a 7.8 kilometer loop. And you have 1 hour, and you go run the loop, and you just see how many loops you can do. The person that wins is the person that does the most loops until everyone else like ducks out. And so do I do that? But I told you earlier, I don't love running exclusively, but I have like a lot of friends that do that. And so it could be fun to just hop in and try it out. Yeah, but I think like if you're listening to this and thinking like, I've never been able to do this, it was just a couple years ago, I was like, I would never run a marathon. That's impossible. 42 kilometers, I could never do that. I can barely run 5K. And now here I am running marathons, triathlons, and I'm also not the most fit person. Like when you see me, like I have a higher body mass. I'm also really intentional in how I talk about my body, where I don't use negative terms. I don't weigh myself. I have no idea how much I weigh. I haven't weighed myself in like 2 years, because the scale and weighing just like brings you down, man. It just like, you see the number, and even though the number is just a number, you think, oh, that's not a good number. And it ruins your day, or it ruins your week or your month. And I just said, you know what? Screw this. I'm not weighing myself anymore. This body that I have was a precious gift from God. And my body, if it has an increased body mass, only has an increased body mass because my habits have led me to consume more calories than I burn. And when you consume more calories than you burn, your body stores that energy and increases its mass to use that energy at a later time. And that's it. Often we put all these different words and terms on it, and we're like fat, or you need to lose weight, you need to eat cleanly, you need to, you know, I don't know, like we put a lot of morals on it. And one of the struggles I've had is looking at my body negatively when really my body at minimum is neutral. But I actually think as a Christian, I think my body is actually this wonderful thing God's given us. And it says that the body is a temple of the Holy Spirit and should be stewarded and honored accordingly. And that's what this is kind of about. I think we're all growing and developing our stewardship of our temples. And some people are sneakier about how they do or don't steward it than others. And when someone has a higher body mass, you can just see like, oh, that person is not stewarding their temple very well. And then there's other people that have a decreased body mass, and you don't really think that maybe they don't treat their body well, and turns out they are off of their body. So I think there's just all these kind of stereotypes and cultural things that I'm like trying to like really distance myself and be like, yeah, I'm not playing with that. Homie doesn't play that game. And use very neutral, scientific, factual terms rather than cultural and I don't know. I was going to say moralistic, but it's not really moralistic. It's like cultural and yeah, I don't know. I guess it is moralistic terms. Anyway, and so when it comes to these things, I'm kind of like, I don't really care how I look. I don't really care what shape, like not shape I'm in, but shape my body is. Cause I'm like, I'm just going to let her rip, man. I'm not going to let these things hold me back. And the fact is that because I chose to do this, it caused me to increase my activity level, which would allow me to probably has me in a place of health that I wouldn't be in otherwise. And I'm also kind of getting to the point where I'm like, man, I have a kid now. I want to do everything I can with that kid. I want to have all the energy I can for him and my wife and not be like tired unreasonable amount of the time. And that means that you have to exercise. When you don't feel like doing something, you have to go do something because you get energy by moving. It's like really counterintuitive, but it's like the more active you are, the more energy you have. But when you don't have energy, you don't feel like being active. So it's really counterproductive and doesn't really feel like it makes sense. But it's how it works, baby. Yeah. And yeah, so that's like 3 weeks from now. And then I don't know what will be next. Will I do another triathlon? Will I try to go up and do a half Ironman? Will I stick to smaller races like half marathons? Will I do that backyard? Technically, backyard is an ultra marathon, but I think you personally have to get to 50 kilometers in a race to like say you've done an ultra marathon. And I just don't really know. I kind of pick these things on a whim. I'm just like, yep, I'm vibing. This is vibing. I'm going to do this. And if I don't feel that way, then I don't really sign up. So we'll kind of see what comes of it. I think what I would love to leave with people today is like, if, you don't think you can do something. No, if you don't think you would ever be able to do something, just like challenge that thought. I never thought I would do a podcast. I never thought I would, I don't know, do this job. I never thought I'd marry that person. Never thought I'd run a marathon. You just don't actually fully know. I think we need to like decrease that mindset in our society of like, I'm going to never do something. Cause you just don't know. And honestly, that also works bad in the negative sense. Cause you'd be like, I don't know, cheat on my wife. And how many people do we know that have done something like that? Or I would never, whatever. And they do it. Like, we just don't know. It's kind of scary sometimes, like what we don't know, what we're capable of. it's like beautiful and scary at the same time. So, yeah, so I guess that's like also dual sided blade. Like, um, go and do great things that you never thought you could, and try to avoid the awful things that you never thought you were capable of. And yeah, just go like start doing stuff. I think sometimes we see people running and we think like, oh, I could never get to that place of being a runner like that person. And that person just started running probably 1 kilometer one day. And if you got to start by running and mixing in some walking, that's great. One ultra runner, long distance runner that I heard the other day said that he has always in his life, any race he's done, he intentionally mixes in walking and running because it keeps his heart rate down and prevents injuries, apparently. So don't look down on the fact you have to run and walk. It might be good. Same with weightlifting. Like I think weightlifting is so important. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care how old you are. If you're not lifting weights at least once a week, probably should be 3 days a week, you're missing out on a huge quality of life and on a huge investment for the later years of your life. It's so important. Weight training, I think if we could get everyone in society to do one thing that would dramatically improve their life, it would be weight train 3 days a week. Cardio is great and has its important values, but I think weight training is just like second to none. It's incredible. So yeah, go and get that Planet Fitness membership for $15 a month or whatever. Go run. Yeah, go like pick something and go do it. Do something new. I think it's always important to do new things because we, life's short and there's like not that much time before it's like, oh, I've been doing the same thing for the last 50 years. I've just been golfing for 50 years. Why don't you golf and go run some marathons? Like golf's great, but I think running marathons, well, it's just like an example, but I think golf's great. But it shouldn't be like our whole identity or keep us from doing other things too. I think that's one reason I love doing this podcast is I have interest in all these different areas and I want to get some of these things out and maybe help encourage other people to try them too. So, those are my thoughts today. And let me know in the comments. Have you done a race? Would you ever consider doing a race? If you had one question that needs answering that could help push you towards doing some kind of race, what's that question? Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in. I love that you guys are getting something out of this. I love that we have these sessions. And just, for those of you who haven't, like and subscribe. It means more than you know. Every like, every subscribe, every comment makes a huge, huge difference. So thank you so much. Thanks for trusting me with your time. And, we'll catch you next time. Peace.